this and all. So how does it understands that and all those things? This was part of your inbound EIB. So inbound EIB has a lot of limitations. It has a defined template, which is supposed to be filled in a proper format. We just discovered that even if you have a wrong ID or something like that, it does not accept that record. So you have that template to be filled in a particular designated format for which it was built, and then only the EIB can be processed. And since this kind of a template is required by Workday people who are working in HR ops team or in the functional team, they know how is the data structure, what is the type of the data structure. So sometimes even if you think that you shared this data to the outside system, you ask some downstream systems to fill you a template in this kind of a format, it becomes really hard for them, because apparently they are also kind of not generating it manually. They also using a system which on behalf of which that system is actually generating the data templates. Could be a CSV, could be an XML or whatever. So it's hard for them as well to properly generate this file in this particular format, which is being needed by your inbound EIB. So that's why the purpose of inbound EIB kind of gets limited to just the bulk uploads, wherein it is being used mostly by the internal people and not by the outside people, the downstream systems. For all those things, we will have to move to the studio inbound integrations, which is more advanced and complex, and it can handle more than one business process, more than one web service. You can have a file, you have a data, you can trigger multiple business processes as upon your needs. You can trigger the from the same file, you can trigger a change of for one person, hire for another person, update their other IDs via the other business process, update the custom object as well at the same time. So your studio then has more level of complexities, wherein you can add different type of web service calls, define the format of different web service, pull the data, transform the data if it is needed, then make it compatible with the web service which it needs. And then you can do so many of. So the next phase of the EIB inbound is your so EIB inbound is kind of just an integration template, not much. It's just a way to replace or to help you do your bulk data loads, for which it would take time for you to do it manually. It is just kind of a replacement for your data loads. Sometimes in the discovery sessions for the implementations of the clients, when you are implementing Workday for them. So this might come to you that where you're working for a partner or a consulting firm, and then you come across an integration design wherein the frequency is very limited, maybe a monthly frequency, or maybe it just an inbound data load needs to happen twice or thrice of very limited frequency. So in these cases, you can also suggest the inbound EIBs, and rather than an automated integration, since it is not very frequent, if it's just 5-6 times a year, or maybe just once a month, hardly. So these things can be taken if somebody can give the template filled in a particular format, then this can be taken care manually as well, because this workload will only come once in a month for a person, HR ops team, or someone who is doing it. So in these kind of cases, you can suggest an inbound EIB. Otherwise, inbound EIB is just limited to the functional teams and the data load teams. So, and it is not considered as an integration replacement if the frequency is not very less, which is not desired. So that was all about your inbound EIB. So now we'll discuss about the outbound EIBs. So from the to the next phase, from moving to a REST API enabled report, we are now moving to an EIB outbound, which is enterprise interface builder and an outbound type. So it is kind of an increment over the report which you are using. So your report did not have the file delivery capabilities that it could only be used as an API, as a real-time kind of thing, wherein the API, somebody would consume your REST API data, and they will load it into a system. But if somebody needs file-based architecture, they want you to drop a file somewhere on the SFTP, S3 servers or somewhere else, then your report as a service could not do. Also, when you move to complex complex kind of situation, not I would say complex, but wherein you have large set of data, you have large sets of data, you have full load files, you have too much data set which needs to be delivered every day or every third day or multiple times a week. So your report kind of gets, and when you have complex filters as well, so then you have number of fields also gets increased. You have 20, 30, 40, 50 fields in your report. So then it gets starts to give you the performance issues, wherein the report is not enough for the systems which can be preserved for a very longer amount of time. So these are also some limitations when you work only with the REST-based API report. So then you have an option to go to the EIB, where you can deliver a file. So if your system is able to deliver a file, you can move to EIB. Some other things as well, the report, when they are running on their own, the report kind of use the report servers to run on. But when we use the integration, which is the EIB or some other integration, they run on the integration servers, which are more efficient and more optimized. So they kind of run quicker. So let's take an example. So when we move to EIB, you will know that EIB is just a placeholder, just a template. EIB, just like report, has a data source of its own. You use the data source and you use the columns and everything. EIB is dependent on the report itself to give data, to behave or to act as a source of data. EIB is nothing. EIB is just a placeholder which has some place for your report to act as a data source. Otherwise, EIB does not have any of its web service or any of its data source. EIB is dependent on your web service to give you dependent on your report as a report data. So that data can then be utilized and taken by the EIB and then deliver it via a file. So the same report which you are running over over as a standalone report via the REST API or something, and the same report, when you put it in the EIB and you run the same report, and you're going to see a difference when there are large data sets. For smaller data sets, you might not even feel the difference. You will feel the difference when you have large data sets. You have 50,000 workers coming into your report. You have a lot of transactions coming in. You have too many fields in your report, complex calculated fields, filters. So that then you will feel the difference, because now that load is being taken over by the integration servers when you're using the same report to run via the EIB. So it kinds of have the performance improvements as well, and then you get the file delivery capabilities and all those things, and some of the transformation capabilities as well. You can, if you want to apply some transformations, the data is coming via XML, you want to convert it to a CSV. So all those things you can do it via the EIB as well. So these are some of the pros and cons where you would choose. And one more thing, that when you decide the integration, what integrations to be built. So EIB would be chosen in for those cases wherein you have a full file to be sent over. It is not recommended for a delta file, because again, delta file depends on the complexities what you have. If you have too many delta changes that you need to take care of, then again, creating the did we discuss the change detection already, custom change detection? So we have just like we have delta files and we have full files. So delta file is like the change file, wherein you do not send the entire set of data set for the entire population. You just pick up the changes. That means if let's talk about in terms of a worker, it's easy to understand. So if a worker has undergone any changes within the frequency of the integration, so if an integration is being scheduled on a 24-hour basis daily, so the changes would only be sent to the downstream if any of the particular worker has undergone any changes in the last 24 hours. So let's say you have a worker's email was changed, a worker's comp was changed, his manager was changed, there was a change of performed. So only then that worker will be picked up for a change. So other system you do usually one time full load. So that both the systems are in sync. Let's say Workday and Active Directory, there is a system which generates your emails and all those things for you. So you did a one-time sync now, to that system. You provided a full entire set of workers which were there at that moment of time. Now from the next subsequent runs, they are not requesting a full file every time. They don't want to override every time the entire set of population. What they are requesting is that they need you to give them a delta file, so that once they have the full load, let's say they had 5,000 workers and you shared all those 5,000 workers and all of their data that was required by them. Now from the next subsequent runs, they only want the workers which undergo any changes. Let's say their manager was changed, any other attribute of the interest which Active Directory needed, that has changed. So now only they need those workers which has undergone any change from the last 24 hours, and then those workers data should need to be synced and get updated in Active Directory. Rest of the workers, they would just assume because nothing has changed in Workday, so whatever the data they have is the latest data. So this is called a change file, wherein you share the delta sets to the downstream systems for an outbound file and not the entire set. So this is the delta file. What is the full file? Full file is you run the report. Let's say we have a report, and that report, let's say, run for US workers. There is a filter. So whatever the filter satisfies, after that, whatever is left over, all those workers which is needed by a downstream system, all of those workers will be pulled every time, and also any new workers if they have added, and their respective status if they are also filling. Let's say they don't want the terminated workers. So if you have a filter that it only sending the active workers or maybe future hires, then that depends on your filter what you are sending. So whatever is the population that was decided that no terminated workers should come, only active workers should come, or maybe if the future hires are there, so they should also come. So once in full load, what will happen? Your entire population, which is satisfying your filter criteria, every run, that entire population will be part of the file, and that file will be loaded into downstream system as it is. So they will kind of replace every worker every time. If there is a change, then it will also be updated, but the population would be entire population. So this is called a full file, wherein you send the workers even though they have not undergone any change, and the other system has to process each worker, and even though it is updated or not, it will just kind of override every data which they have. If it is updated, then the next data will be updated. If it is just the same data, then also it will be the same data. So these are the two files which you generate, change file or a delta file. So when we talk about the EIB outbound is preferred to be used for the full files. Because when we talk about the change file, Workday already gives us a very good integration, which is called as core connector, which we'll be discussing in the next sessions. That integration is built to detect changes automatically on its own. But it is it is not 100% true that you cannot build a change detection in an EIB or in a custom report. You can build a change detection in EIB and custom report with the help of calculated fields. So that change detection also we are going to custom change detection, we are going to discuss a little on that. So, but it is not recommended because that is custom change detection that you build. So if we just go to the, okay, perfect. So this is a calculated field which I have developed to detect the changes on a particular field. Now, when we talk about custom change detection, you have to implement the custom change detection for each attribute for which you want to detect the changes. So let's say in your report, there were total 20 columns. Out of those 20 columns, if you say that on all the 20 columns, you want to detect a change. Now, when I mean that You want to detect the change in all the 20 columns. That means if any of those 20 fields gets changed within the particular frequency, let's say 24 hours, if any of those fields gets changed for the worker, then it is a change. Now, it is possible, but it is not recommended at all, and you will understand why, to build the custom change detection for all those 20 fields. If the requirement is kind of that there is a report and you need to just build the custom change detection on only a couple of fields or just 3-4 fields of their interest, let's say the downstream system is only uh, only worried about email manager change or any other important fields of their interest, let's say 4 to 5 fields, they're just concerned about that if these fields gets changed for any worker, then just send us the worker load. Otherwise we are good. Those other attributes are not that little, we just want to immediate to be consumed, so we are good with the other attributes. But if any of these fields gets changed, then do send us the worker payload. So in those cases wherein you have a limited amount of fields on which you want to track a change, then you can build a custom change detection. Now you will learn why you cannot implement it for all the fields, because to detect the change on a single field, for detecting the change on a single field, you need to build a set of calculated fields. How many are those? So one is your final calc field. We'll discuss everyone. First field is this. Then second is this. Third is this. And fourth is this. So you need to create, no, not even 4, you have 5. This is entry moment, current moment, then effective and to effective. Yeah. So total 5 fields, 5 calculated fields you have to create to achieve change detection for a single particular field. And how does it work? So let's say I want to see if an email has been changed for a worker from in the last 24 hours. So how do I detect it? By creating a custom change detection. In the true false calculated field, I have to create a true false calc field. And inside the true false calc field, I have to write several conditions. So before going into the detail, I'll just give you an overview. What do we do? So depending on the frequency, let's say we have a 24 hours frequency. So we need to check whether from last 24 hours when the integration or report was last ran, and until now when the integration is running, is there a change which has happened on that email for a particular worker? Now, this field you see, we have discussed the lookup value as of date fields, right? Which gives us the value of a particular field based on the entry or effective dated criteria for any particular day. So in the first calculated field which I have, I am checking the effective value of the email as of yesterday. If I open it for you, so I'm checking the value of the email field as of effective date, which is what? Current moment minus 24 hours. What was the exact date time before current moment minus 24 hours? So that's the integration is running now. It is 9:23 for me. So let's say the integration is running, let's say roughly at 9:30 p.m. every day. So at that moment of time when the integration running, the result will be checked. So exactly one day before, that is on 16th May, 9:30 p.m., what was the value effective for a particular worker for his or her email? This field is going to check the effective value of the email as of minus 24 hours, as of the 24 hours before. So it will give the some value. So if I just go here, so so let's say when the integration, there was an ABC email, abc@gmail.com. This was the email for worker X. Yesterday's run. When yesterday's run happened, abc@gmail was sent for this worker X. in yesterday's run. Now, after yesterday's run, HR went and updated the email to xyz @gmail.com for worker X. After the integration ran for yesterday, that means in yesterday's run, ABC was sent already, and as soon as the ABC was sent, after the last integration completed, then HR updated the email from XYZ from abc@gmail.com to XYZ and made it effective 17th May. So 16th they made the change and made it effective 17th May, or maybe 16th May. Let's say same day, 16th or 17th, any day it would work. Now, when integration ran for today, this field is going to check the value of the email effective as of yesterday. Okay, so let's say for better scenarios, maybe they made it effective, because doing in the same day might be retro. Let's say they made it effective from the 17th. That means they did the changes yesterday, but made it effective tomorrow. That is for 17th today. So this field, when it is running today and it is checking the effective value of the email in this system for worker X as of 24 current moment minus 24 hours. So what was the value of the email as of effective yesterday? ABC. Now we are going to compare this value effective as of yesterday to effective value as of current moment. So this field is checking the effective value of the email as of the current moment. So we are checking this field's value as of the current moment. So if the value, effective value of email is not equal to the current value, then it is going to return true. That means there is a change happened in the system for this particular worker on their email field. This condition is working fine if the changes are normal. Now let's see. For normal changes, just like if an HR is doing a change today and making it effective tomorrow, or normal changes, this will work fine. Now, why do have a need? For now, ignore the third condition as of now. It is just a placeholder we have created, but it's kind of not an utmost necessary. The second condition should be fine. So just focus on the first and second condition. So first condition is detecting your normal changes. Now, let's say there is a scenario, same scenario, HR went and updated the email to this for worker X, but made it effective, made it retroeffective. So in Workday, you know, we can make the retroeffective changes. But she made it effective as of 15th May, which is in the past. So now this field which you have, this condition for this particular case, the value of effective value of the email as of yesterday, what that value would be. You want to answer? Anyone? Yes, no, any answers?
Effective date will be 15th, right?
No, I'm asking the no, effective date of the email. She made it effective from 15th of May, the new email value. So now in this case, when this type of a change has happened and this field is now getting evaluated, so what would be the value returned by this particular field wherein it is
14th.
checking the
14th.
No, it is not giving you the value. it is giving you the email value. So I'm asking what will be the value returned by this lookup as of date field in this case. Sorry, not for this field, I'm saying.
It would be the previous value.
Previous work email ID.
So for this field, email value, effective value of the email as of current moments minus 24 hours. What will be the value returned?
It would be the previous value.
No. For the first case, it was true. But I'm saying you did not focus. HR went and updated the email from ABC to XYZ, but made it effective 15th of May. She made the change on 16th of May after yesterday's run.
Okay.
But the effective date she chose of that change from 15th May.
Yeah, it will be the new value itself.
So it will be the new value. Okay.
Yeah.
So when this field is going to return the new value, and this field as of the current moment, this field is also going to return the new value.
New value. Yeah.
So in this case, this condition is going to fail. So this condition is not going to detect the changes based on retroactive basis. This is only good for normal changes. Change it today, effective tomorrow. So there is a difference, it's going to catch. But for retroactive cases, we have to write this condition in OR. So if this is returning false, just a cross check, it is going to go into OR. If this is returning false, if this is returning true itself, then it is a normal change detected. A loop will come out from here and give you a true value. But if this is false, then it is going to come down and see the second condition. Now, what is the second condition? When the effective condition is failing, we are checking the value as of the entry moments. So now we are checking the value of the email primary work, same field, exactly same date, minus 24 hours, but as of the entry criteria. That means it was entered, but it was made effective yesterday, but we are checking the value when it was entered. So at the time of entry, what was the value? So the entry moment criteria is still going to give us the ABC email, because when they were making the entry, she made it effective retrospective basis. So if we check on the effective dated criteria, that email is already effective in the system. So I'm going to check on the entry level basis that when the entry was there, so at the entry moment, what was the value? So at the entry moment criteria, the value will be returned as older one, which will be the abc@gmail.com. And this field will be compared to the entry moment value of the email as of the current moment. So when today's current moment, entry moment, what is the value? So it will be the new value that will be returned to you. So here we will check the entry moment criteria. So in this case, the retroactive case, which was missed in the previous condition, this condition is going to capture that change, not equal to this one. So our second condition should be enough to detect these kinds of changes. So overall, if a change has happened to the email, either ways, the true false flag will return true. And if it is true, so up until now, this was just true false condition that we have used. Now you have to use this true false condition in your report, in your filter. So along with all of your filters, let's say you have 5 rows for your filter. So along with all of your filters, you are just going to add this true false condition as another end in your filter. That means along with all the population criteria that you have, he should belong to this and this location, this and this hierarchy, or whatever filters you have from the population inclusion. This condition will go as an end along with all the filter. So apart from satisfying the basic criteria for the eligibility, a worker should also satisfy this criteria. That means he is part of this organization, this cost centers and all. Along with that, his email should also have been changed in last 24 hours. If it has changed, it will return true. And if this returns true, along with the other conditions as well, this will return true. Then only those workers for which this condition is returning true in the filter, they will be picked up for the change. That means they will be picked up in the output file, and you will be able to see them in your output file. Now, this was just for a single email field change that we had to create 5 calculated field, 4 lookup as of dates, and 1 true false field. So if you multiply it by 5 fields for which you have to detect the changes, so 5, 5, 25, you have to create 25 calc fields and maintain them. And then the time also will be taken, time also will increase. So if the fields are more, the custom change detection is not preferred, but it is possible, and you should know how you detect the changes. If you got this concept, then understanding the core connector change detection will be pretty much easy to you.
So custom change deductions is nothing but creating calc fields?
Yes.
Okay. It's just the terminology as custom.
Yes, because it is like custom made. You are creating on its own. It's nothing happening in the background for you, no system. So when we compare it to the core connector worker is uh, sufficient and smart enough to detect the changes for you in the background. They use the web service in the background to detect the changes, but more or less they kind of does the same. But since that connector itself is built to detect the changes, its main purpose is to detect the changes. So for the optimization performances, to those good concepts of the optimization are already being used there, because core connector worker will give you all the changes for all the workers. If the worker has undergone any changes for the fields which you are opting for, it will give you change detection on every field and with efficiently as well, because its purpose is meant for, and that is being created by the Workday developers. This is you are creating the custom change detection on your own with the help of calculated fields. That's why it might take time and you might run into performance issues. But this is what the custom change detection is, that you create on your own.
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
So if you're using custom change detection in your report, then you will be generating a delta file. If you're not using custom change detection in your report, and one more thing, even though you're detecting the custom changes and your worker will be coming in, so whatever worker will be coming in your output, their latest values, whatever the columns you're using, their values will still be latest. That is on the top of the stack value, whatever their values are as effective in the system as of now, their value you are going to get latest only. But only those workers will be picked up, those have undergone any changes. For a full file, again, values will be latest only written by the fields or calculated fields that they are using. But entire population will be coming up every time, which is satisfying your population criteria. Every time an override will happen. So that is the full file. So for the EIBs, the recommended way is to generate a full file. So wherever you have an integration type that you need to decide what should you do, if you have a full file and the person is demanding, the downstream system is demanding a file-based delivery, all those things, then you need to use the EIB. It will be good for the performance as well, since it will be running on the integration servers and you will have the file delivery capabilities and all those things. So in these cases, you would recommend to create the EIB. So this was your use case to create the EIB outbound integrations. Select.
For every report, we need to make sure that we need to include, while we are including calculator fields, we need to include this this detection.
Yeah, if you're planning to build a custom change detection on a custom report, and that many fields you want to detect the changes on, then the same logic has to be repeated for all those fields.
Okay, because so far what we discussed as an example in the course, we didn't use it because it's just like for purposefully you didn't use it, right? So, but in a real time scenario, we are supposed to use when you feel that if there will be a change in the field, like in future, so we need to capture that, right? Like in real time world.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
If there's a situation and that situation permits you, if your report performance is going to get intact and you have very limited requirement to detect the changes on very limited fields, then you can do that. That's what I'm saying. And if it is already existing integration, let's say Previously, it was a full file, and now they are requesting all of a sudden that, okay, we don't want the full file. We want the data changes only for now because our system is crashing because of the and since you have built this integration 5 years back, and now 5 years down the line, your worker count has increased, and day by day, every time enhancements keep coming. Yesterday they only needed 20 columns. Now the columns count has increased to 30. So down the line, the performance gets decreased day by day. So now they're requesting that we don't need the full file, we just need the delta changes. So in these cases, you'll have to make a decision. Ask these questions, because the current integration is not able to support. If the current integration is not able to support the custom change detection in a more performance efficient way, then you need to think of building another integration and replacing the current integration. So if the changes are a lot and they want the change detection on every other field, then the option you will have to be that you have to move the entire integration to a different integration. Maybe if you're using a report as a service, or you are using an EIB full file, then you might need to go to the core connector. Entire integration needs to be changed for the better build of the change. But if they say that we are only concerned about 5 to 6 fields for which we need to detect the change, then in that cases, you can build a custom change detection also. And also considering the performances, you need to do a performance testing and how much time it's going to take, how much time it is doing. So all those things.
Okay.
So now we have understood that why are we going to use EIB and in which cases. So now you create an EIB, same task that we did yesterday, create EIB. EIB outbound. I'll choose the type as outbound. I'll click OK. So as I said, that EIB is just a placeholder. It does not have any own data source of its own to run. It is dependent on the custom report, or which is a very, very less frequently used way. We are not probably going to discuss it much, but you can all, just like I discussed the inbound EIBs, which uses the web service to upload the data. Similar way. So this is just a name. If I go to get data, so to get the data to this EIB, from where it is going to get data, so you choose sources from here, data source type. So by default is custom report, which is 99% of the time is used custom report only. You will see one more option here as web service. So web service option is also there, wherein you kind of create a web service placeholder outside of this EIB, and then call, if I just do the web service, then you create a web service placeholder. You mention the web service, which web service you want, because it's an outbound integration. And Workday supports the outbound in web services as well. So let's say you want to run get workers, get locations, get companies, get job profiles. So in that case, you can create a placeholder for the web service call, and then you can call it here. So in that case, what it would do, it would run that particular outbound web service for you in the background and give you the data. But since web service is not customizable, it is going to give you every set of data which that web service field has. This is why it is not used. Very rarely it is used. Custom report gives you a flexibility to you to create the fields of your own, to create the calculated fields and also any things. So you can kind of design the output, what is required, and then just use the same custom report in your EIB, and that it will do the job. So that's why that is used. But if somebody asks you that how many data source types an EIB support, then 2 types of data sources it can support. One is the custom report and one is via the web service dump. So here, as I said previously, that when we create the advanced type of reports, so your advanced type of reports along with the web service enablement will be eligible to be called in this report. If you had a report which was not web service enabled, that will not be eligible to be fetched in this EIB as the data source. So your report has to be web service enabled. So by choosing here, you are going to choose your custom report. which you have created. So as a prerequisite, you are going to create a custom report, which will be the main thing. What data you need to send, what is the logic that you want to build, all the filter conditions and everything, any prompts or anything to everything you are going to achieve here. Because EIB is just a placeholder. You are just placing this report here, and then you will do some tricks and tips here in the EIB, and then just deliver the file. So you have created a custom report and you are calling your custom report here in the custom report section. This is your get data. So get, transform and deliver, GTD. In the details, you have an output format to be chosen, alternate output format. So it is select, it is nothing is selected, it is default. So default output of an EIB is Workday XML. The same output of the custom report is Workday XML, and you will understand why the EIB's output is also default as Workday XML. You will understand it why. Otherwise, alternative outputs are also supported by EIB, like CSV, Gdata, JSON, RSS, Simple XML, if you want. So this is what you do in the get data. Then you move to the transform page. In the transformation page, you have a couple of options for the transformation. They are just basically two only. You'll understand why. So one is the none. That means you are not applying any transformations. You're just getting the data as is from custom report and just delivering it via the same format to the offset system. Other transformation technique is custom report transformation. So custom report transformation and new custom report transformation are basically the same. It is just that when you are creating the custom report transformation for the first time for this particular EIB and report combination, you are going to choose new custom report transformation. And you will then configure that. We will learn how to configure that. So custom report transformation and new custom report transformation are basically the same. Once you have created the new custom report transformation, then you can go. If I just choose the custom report transformation, you will be able to select the existing custom transformations which are created. But it should exactly match the report of yours which you have created, because the custom report transformation is heavily dependent on your reports input and output. Then you have custom transformation option. So custom transformation is using an external XSLT. Just like you have XML, you have XSLT, which kind of processes your XML and transform your output with some transformation functions, or you can also change the format. Just like if you want to generate a file from XML to CSV, you can do that via the XSLT. So this is the external XSLT that you create. And for XML and XSLT, as I suggested previously, that you can read out on W3 schools to get more idea. Otherwise, we have discussed the basics of XML already. So XML is the XSLT is the transformation style sheet, which is also built in XML. It transforms your data, it consumes the XML and then gives you a meaningful output in any other format or in the same format XML as well. So for this case, you have to choose the custom transformation, and then there is a placeholder which you use to create the XSLT attachment. We will learn that. And then you place or upload your custom XSLT from your local system to there. And then you call that XSLT in your custom transformation, which we just saw. Is this? This is not mine, right? No. Was this mine? I think mine was not saved, but I'm hoping it kind of, even if you're on that page, always happens to me, so it gets saved most of the times. No, this is not. Before creating a new, I just want to check if this is it, I guess. If you've created the EIB, to edit the configuration again, how do you do that? If you just want to edit the name, then you can go to integration system and edit. But if you want to do more configurations, the same configuration that we were doing just before it got refreshed, then for the EIB, you have to come here, enterprise interface edit, and then go here. So here you'll be actually on the configurations page, you will be editing. So we were in here. We have chosen none for now. And we go to deliver. So in the delivery tab, just like we had for the inbound EIB, we had options for the retrieval of the file because it was inbound. Similar way, you have the delivery methods to delivery of your file, almost more or less the same way. That the different ways where you can send the file now, FTP, SFTP, Amazon Simple Storage, email, Google. So depending on the type of requirement that you have, you can configure the external delivery to your system, because whenever you'll be building integrations like this, you will not be generating just for yourself. If the system needs, if the file needs to be sent, that it should be either of these methods that you need. The most used one is SFTP. So you need the host details from the vendor, what is their host, where they want to kind of a URL, understand it like this. The directory in that host, that where is folder structure, basically where they want it. Then the authentication method to interact with the SFTP. What is the authentication method? So username, password, and all those things. So in that case, they will give you a user, which user can authenticate to their SFTP, and then they will also give the read and write capabilities to your user, so that you can this user can write the files on their SFTP, password of their user, and all those things. File name by which it will be delivered, your file name. So all these things comes in the delivery, but since we do not have any customers test SFTPs and also we will not be doing that, we'll be generating it. But it's easy to configure whatever the details you have, depending on the type of system, you can deliver these details. But other than that, the default method is Workday attachment, where your file will be generated locally in your Workday as an output file, integration output file. And this is default. So even though you configure any other delivery methods, then also the Workday attachment will be there as a default file in your output files. If you want more, since you see add option here, you can have more than one delivery options, and I'll tell you how it helps. So if you go into details, you will see an option here, restricted to. So this restricted to parameter helps you to restrict your delivery to any particular environment. So let's say you have a Workday attachment, or let's say you didn't have any Workday attachment. You had an SFTP configuration, and that SFTP configuration was restricted to production. So if let's say there was an issue you are trying to debug and you are debugging that issue and you want to run the integration. So if you run the integration, if you have set the restriction to production, then what will happen is that this delivery for the SFTP will only happen. This will only work and deliver the file if the environment is production. So if you are running it in the lower instances, this is going to help you a lot in your testing. If you're running in the lower instances like Sandbox or other implement talents, your file delivery will not happen. and you don't want that to happen. If you are generating test files, you're troubleshooting something, and you don't want your troubleshooting files, of course, to be send it over to their production SFTP, and their system will consume that. You don't want that to happen. So what we do in that case, we add another delivery method. One, we keep it as Workday attachment and keep the restriction to sandbox implementation. Like if you're testing in sandbox or you're testing in implementation, so your local attachment will be keep generating in the sandbox implementation tenants. But your actual SFTP, which will be delivering to the production, for that, you only want to keep the restriction to production. So in that case, you have two deliveries. One will be to a local, one will be to your SFTP. And if you have chosen it as production, then, so in that case, you don't have to make the integration changes actually. If you are just using the SFTP and you want to, the delivery to be stopped, then you have to come again and change the restrictions to some other. So if you don't want the file to be delivered, then you can change this restriction to testing. Testing is not any tenant. It is just a dummy number, but since it will not, any tenant will not match the testing tenant, so it will be false and your delivery will not happen. So for the best practices, you have one delivery with a Workday attachment, keep it to your sandbox or implementation. One delivery with your actual delivery to the sites, keep it as to production. So that if you're running it in lower instances, it will not deliver the test files. So Workday attachment, you have a file, and this is your file name by which your file name should run and deliver the file, and the extension of the file, whatever the type of file you have, accordingly you can deliver the extension. This is the document retention policy of your file. That means up until how many days you want your file to be kept on the integration event. So you can keep that. Normally Workday recommends 180 days, but depending on the requirement, you can keep anything like that. In the next page, you see here sequence generator. So we see here you have a file name, but this is a hard-coded file name. If the other system wants unique files every day, then every day or every run, how many times of run you are doing in a day or whatever, every run should have a unique file name. You can achieve that by using the sequence generator facility of this. It is not inbuilt in the EIB. So you have to create this, like you see all these things. These are already created sequence generator placeholders. So you have to go outside of this EIB, create that placeholder sequence generator, configure it, and then you have to call it here. But in core connector worker, this is configurable in the core connector configuration itself. You don't need to go outside and create and then call. But for EIB, you have to create it outside this EIB and then call it here. So this sequence generator will enable you to generate unique files every time. It is a combination of constant and dynamic values like date parameters, hour parameters, and the sequence of the file. These things you can keep it dynamic. Rest of the things you can keep it constant. So we will learn the sequence generator, and I think we will learn in this. Maybe we'll learn it here and don't learn it in the core connector. So, so we'll learn that as well. So you have sequence generator to dynamically deliver your file. And then you want to use, if any, you want to use any encryptions, then you can use the encryptions. You can want to apply any certificates to your file. Then you can do this encryption using the encryption certificates, the keys you can create in Workday. And then your file will be encrypted with the particular encryption. You restrict, we already discussed. So this is all your delivery configuration which you do. And then you come to the review and submit. You click OK. Now this is your view mode of your EIB. You have the name. In the get data section, you have the data source, which is a clickable link. You can open your custom report from here. Then all the details that you were there in the data source page, your delivery method, your file name, your document retention, your sequence generator facility, and so on and so forth. All these things. Now, let's run your EIB. So if your report had any launch parameters that was there in your report, any launch parameters, so they will not be lost. In our report, we don't have any, but we can create one and use it here. So, and just like in the outbound EIB, you are running it, you have only default two parameters, file name and the document retention policy. But if any of your report has any launch parameters, so they will not be lost. They will be carry forwarded accordingly here. And then you can also use them here to configure, to dynamically configure or whatever, just like we discussed in the report. You can configure them here as well. They will not be lost. They will be coming here if they have any. And then again, they will be passed to your report. So in the launch screen, you have the file name. Since we do not have any file generator configured for now, so if you just keep it at system default, whatever you have kept it in your file name configuration, that will be there. If you want to override that, what you have configured, so whatever now you write the file name here, that will take the preference. If you want to make it determine value at runtime, so this is when we are going to use, wherein you have a sequence generator configured, then we are going to use it and we just write next here. So next sequence for integration file utility. So if you have a sequence generator configured, then in that case, you will do this determine value at runtime. And if you go to the later action of this, it will tell you returns the next sequence value for the sequence generator configured for the EIB while launching or scheduling. So you will use this in that case when you have configured the sequence generator. So we'll use it when we will configure it. For now, we'll use the system default, whatever we have configured in the EIB already. This is a document retention. You want to override it with the 5 days that we configured. You can override it now with the any value that you want. So now we will run it. I just have one doubt that the report was temporary and not sure what was its last date to be used, but we'll see. So your integration is completed. And you see how quick it was. It just took 2 seconds to complete. So you have the integration event. Since this is our first integration that we have built after the report we are coming. So this is how your normal integration process monitor page will look like. You have the processing time, the status of the integration, the request name by which it was created, the name of the integration. Here as well, the integration event link, who initiated it, when they initiated, how it ran as, maybe it ran as an ISU or the user. Since we do not have any ISU for the integration, so it is by default it run by the same user. But when you transfer the ownership of your integration to the ISU, then in the ran as column, you will see the ran by as an ISU. Initiator will be the initiator who initiated it. Response message after the integration, it was completed. This is how it ran. Initial event triggered, retrieval completed, whatever the steps was there. Now below, if you would see where I want you to focus, in the enterprise interface event section, get data. Have you seen this kind of thing already anywhere?
We have seen this in web services, like from the report we open
Correct.
related actions. Okay.
Yes. So that's why I was saying EIB is just a placeholder. In the background, it kind of uses the web service, and now you know how your report is used by the EIB to actually do a web service call. Exactly same URL for the report is generated. And did you mention anything else as well? Do you have anything after your report name here? After the report name, do you have anything? Format or something like that? Anything you have?
No.
No. Why? When don't you see the format option? In which cases? When we have Workday XML as the default method, we don't see any format here. And if you remember, when we were configuring the EIB, I kept it as none. And I told you that if you don't choose anything, Workday XML will be the default method.
Okay.
So that's what it does. In it kind of. So accordingly, the format that you pass, that format works as a query param to the report. And if you have chosen JSON as a format there, it would have appended question mark format is equals to JSON in this URL. And accordingly, that URL will be formed and you are going to get the output. So this is your output file. I just open it. It would just be a Workday XML that I'm expecting. So this is your Workday XML as we were expecting. Same output as you would have got by running the View Web Services for the report in the Workday XML format. Now if I go to the EIB, do the enterprise interface, edit, go to the get data. This alternate output, if I select JSON, click next. Maybe in the here I want to change .json. So now if you go and just rerun it again, it is default. Since Workday, you understand Workday XML was default, so it did not took time for Workday to generate the Workday XML. But from 2 seconds for the same output, it took now 10 seconds because there was something happening in the background and it was kind of generating you the JSON file. Now if I have this JSON opened, I don't have any tools in this VDI, but I'll just be able to show you the text only. This JSON. So this is your JSON file generated now. If you go to the integration details page, you'll see something here. Format is equals to JSON was appended as in when you chose the output. So nothing is happening. EIB just behaving as a placeholder. It is using the attributes and all those things, doing the beautification for your EIB, passing these as the parameters to and apparently to your report, and then report is running in the background behind the scenes and then getting you the